Okay, period 9, this is Mr. Haller, and we're picking up where we left off on Tuesday. You should have your Visual Studio program open, and Visual Studio should be open to your P9 Your Name Discount program. And I've got my form open here, and I can see this is the form we've been working on with my 2 numeric up-down controls and my text box and my 3 buttons. If I go over to the code, remember I can go view code to do that, or I can just click up here in the tab. I can see the comments that we added on Tuesday, including the algorithm comment that we developed, along with the test data and the test scenarios we'd come up with. At the end of the day, we had generated our events by double-clicking each of these buttons. So I have my btn compute click event, my btn reset event, and my close click event. So these are all button click events. And if by any chance you have an event that is not one of those 3, so for example, let's say you have a form load event, because you accidentally, what happened was you accidentally clicked somewhere on the form twice to generate that event. You can just go and delete private sub to end sub. Be careful, you don't want to delete anything else, just that, and you're good to go. Be careful, you do not want to delete end class, and you do not want to delete public class form 1. This has always got to be the first line of code in a program, and this is going to be the second line of code in a program. When I say first line of code, I mean first line of actual code that does stuff. Obviously I can have comments above them, and remember, comments are ignored. So then on Tuesday, we saw for our reset button event, so when the reset button gets clicked, what we wanted to do was to restore our form back to this original state where it would have 10 here, 0 here, and this would be blank. Okay, and so we said, okay, well, when the reset button gets clicked, we typed in the name of our first control, which is NUT original. That's our numeric up-down original. That is this one, and if you need proof of that, I'm going to turn on my properties window here, and I can see if I click here, the name property is NUT original. Actually, show you that NUT original, but it's also up here. So I'm going back to my code. So I'm saying take that NUT original control and then dot value. So the dot is I'm taking some property or some action that I can take with this control. In this case, it's a property dot value. We know value is the property that controls what displays in this control. So for example, down here value is set to 10. So by saying NUT original dot value, we're saying we want to go to the value property of this control. Now the equal sign in programming means assign to. So we are assigning to the value property of NUT original whatever value appears on the right, and in this case it's the number 10. So again, this is a fundamental statement in programming. Most of the statements that you do in programming are some variation of this. This is called an assignment statement because you're assigning a value to another, to something. In this case, we're assigning the value, and the value is always going to be on the right side. So in this case, we're assigning 10 to the value property of NUT original. So then, on the next line of code, we say NUT discount. That was this control, right? NUT discount. And we're saying take the NUT discount control and take its value property and assign it to the value of 0, which was our starting value here. Okay, and that's where we left off on Tuesday. We started to do the third control, which is our text box called txt final. Okay, so txt final dot, and now the property that I use for a text box is not value. It is, whoops, I'm sorry, overtyped. I have to put my control name again. txt final dot text. Text is a property of a text box that controls what displays in it. Assign to. Now, if I want to do a blank in a text box, I have to do 2 double quotes. If I do 1 double quote, it'll put the second one in for me. Notice when you put double quotes on the screen, they will display in red. Why it does that, we will discuss later. So for now, just say to yourself, if I want a blank, I just type in a double quote. The computer will type, or Visual Studio will type the second double quote for me. So what this is saying is when I click my reset button, put 10 in the value property of not original, put 0 in the value property of not discount, and put a blank in the text property of txt final. So that will reset all of these controls to these starting states. There's one other thing I want, and that is, I think when I reset, I want it so that this is the active control, so that a person doesn't have to click on this control to get there. It'll actually be there initially. So to do that, there's one other thing we're going to do in this reset event, and I want to go to my not original control dot. This time I'm going to type focus and hit enter. Now, focus is not a property of not original. So if I look over here in the F's under not original, I don't see focus because it's not a property. And I can also tell that because it's got parentheses after it. Focus is what's called a method, and it's like an action that's associated with a numeric up-down control. So what focus means is bring the attention, or it's as if bring the selection to this control. So to see what that's going to do for us, I'm just going to get rid of that space. I don't have any blue squiggly lines. If I had a blue squiggly line, let's say for example, if I go here to not discount, if I get rid of the U in discount and click off that line, I'm going to get a blue squiggly line. It's Visual Studio saying, hey, you made some sort of error. I don't recognize this. So I'm going to put my U back in there so it knows what control I'm talking about. And then the blue squiggly line goes away. I have no blue squiggly lines, so I know I'm good. If you have blue squiggly lines, it's likely you didn't name your controls the same thing that I named my controls. So you might want to go back and check the names of the controls that you gave them. Okay, so I'm back in my code, and I'm going to save all, and I'm going to hit my start button. So my form's going to appear, and I'm going to just change these values to something. I haven't set up to do actual calculations. I'm just changing values. I want to test reset to see that it's working. I click the reset button, and I see it goes back to 10, goes back to 0, and notice it's also up here. The focus is up here. So let's do this again. If I click here, click here, click here, notice right now my focus here is on discount. That's where the cursor is. But if I hit reset, the values have changed and the focus has moved up here to not original. Okay, now to close, I got to click on the X because I haven't enabled anything to close it yet. So I'm going to just click on the X. I'm back into my code. I'm going to close this output window. So now I've got my reset event done. Let's come down to our close event. That's something that you already know how to do. So I want you very quickly to go and type the code in for this event. You should remember how to do that from Hello World in my first program. So I'll give you a second. What should we type there? Okay, we should type me.close. Remember, me refers to the program that's running. So me is the program that is running. Close is the close method of that program. And it just means close the program. So me.close. Okay. Now let's come up to our BTN compute event. And now what we have to do here is what we're going to say is when we click the compute button, what we want the program to do when I click this is to use the values that I have here to compute and display the final price. So ultimately what I want to do is change the property of my text box here, txt final, to display the answer. So we know to display the answer, we're going to be putting the answer into the text property of txt final. So we're going to start, and we're going to basically what we're going to do is write code to implement this algorithm up here that we came up with. Remember, our algorithm was our final price was our original price minus our discount amount. Well, in this case, our discount amount is our original price times our discount percent divided by 100. So that's our discount amount. If we subtract that from our original price, we get our final price. So now we're going to put that into code that our program can understand. So we want our final price is going to go to txtFinal dot text, and now I'm going to assign that to my original price, which is a NUD original. But what property contains the number that's in NUD original? Well, that's our value property. So I get the number that's in NUD original, and what am I going to do with that? Well, I'm going to subtract that. I'm going to pause for just a moment. Okay, so I've taken my NUD original, the value that was in NUD original. I'm going to subtract from that. I'm going to put a parentheses. So I'm just implementing this code up here. So my original price again, which is NUD original. And remember that where's the number? The number is in the value property. So NUD original dot value times, and I'm going to do another parentheses. Now I need my discount price. That's in NUD discount. And where is it? Well, the number itself is in the value property. So I need the value property of NUD discount. Because remember, my numeric up-down controls contain lots of different properties. If I just say txtFinal, the program doesn't know what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the entire control that has all of these properties. So I have to be specific when I'm using a control name and tell it which property I want to use. Okay. So in this case, with our numeric up-downs, we're using the value property. When we deal with a text box, we use the text property. Okay, so back to NUD discount.value, and I'm going to divide that in programming divide is at /100. Now be careful you choose the right slash. This is the /, which is to the left of the shift key. So basically what I've done is I've implemented this algorithm that we had discussed on Tuesday. So I'm taking my original price, which is in the value property of NUD original, subtracting from that the original price times my discount percent, which is in the value property of NUD discount, and I'm dividing that by 100 to make that the decimal form of our percent. So if I do that, I don't have any blue squiggly lines, so I know I have everything, seems like everything's typed correctly, and I got to make sure I have the right number of parentheses. If I have left parentheses, I need a matching number of right parentheses, which I have. So now I'm going to hit the Save button, and I'm going to end this recording here so that I can continue on part 2. I'm limited in terms of recording size, so I'm going to continue this on part 2.